Hi, I'm Troy Hunt, what am I? Hi, I'm Troy Hunt, cybersecurity expert and consultant. And today I'm taking over the NordVPN YouTube channel to answer some questions. What is the one thing you should do daily to protect yourself? I like to give a really practical answer that everyone can exercise, and it's this concept of data minimization. Now look, there are lots of technical things we can do to protect ourselves, and I think most people know strong, unique passwords, two-factor authentication, so on and so forth. But this really practical one I love is just the idea of not sharing more information than what you have to. If you sign up on a website and it asks you for your date of birth so it can send you a happy birthday email, don't give it the birth date. That is a piece of what we call static knowledge-based authentication. We can't change it, and it's often used as part of verifying our identity. So don't give that away. The same goes for deciding who you want to share any of your information with. Do I really want to sign up to a particular website and give it my address and my phone number? Is that necessary for what I'm actually on the website to do? So data minimization, top tip for the thing that all of us can do every single day to protect ourselves online. Why should you use a VPN? Good question. Obvious, easy answer is privacy. You might want to protect your identity, which of course in a large part is things like your IP address, but also your browsing habits across websites from other services. So a VPN gives you great protection from the service that you're connecting to. It also gives you great protection from the services that you are connecting through. So for example, your ISP. I don't necessarily want to share with my ISP the different places that I'm going to on the internet. Not necessarily because I have things that I want to hide, but perhaps I just have things that I don't want to share. Then there are also things like threat protection, the ability to say, look, let's block things that might be a threat. Let's say it's malware or malicious services, but also let's block things like ads. Let's block trackers. This is something that can be done at the VPN level. And finally, one example, and a true story. This is literally a story from last night. I was downloading some data from Google Drive, and my connection was extraordinarily slow. It was only about 10% of my internet connection. And I did a little bit of reading. Why is it so slow? And someone said, hey, turn your VPN on, because very often ISPs are actually throttling Google Drive download speeds. And wouldn't you know it, I fired up NordVPN, I turned it on, I connected to a local exit node very close to me, and suddenly my connection speed went 10 times faster, which was a fantastic result. But what it reminded me is that my ISP is sitting there inspecting my traffic, making decisions on what sort of quality of service I should receive. So that was one of these little great reminders of the role that the intermediaries between you and we are going to play, and the importance of having a VPN such that you can protect your traffic from everyone in between. That was a true story too. It was actually really, really timely. I'm glad I recorded this today. What are the biggest mistakes most people make online? Are things like password reuse. If you reuse your passwords, even a good password reused in multiple locations, as soon as it's compromised in one place, someone's now got like the key to your digital life, and they just go through and they unlock the other places. This is one of the big things I've learned from Have I Been Pwned, just how much reuse of passwords there is. Along those lines, not using multi-factor authentication. If you don't have a second factor of authentication, you have one point of failure, which is your password. And as I just mentioned, a password is something that does tend to get compromised quite a bit. But maybe just as a third thing that's a little bit tangential, but I think is important to think about, is making security an afterthought is one of the biggest mistakes people make online. Now, what I mean by that is it's very often after something bad goes wrong, like after a data breach or some sort of privacy violation, that people say, oh, I wish I'd done that differently. Now, of course, it's too late then to reverse the incident that's just happened. Good online cybersecurity hygiene is a little bit like insurance. You need to do it before something goes wrong. So even if you're perfectly happy with your online posture right now, like now is the time to think about how do I avoid making a mistake I won't be able to reverse later on. What is the best thing happening on the cybersecurity front at the moment? I think moving away from the dependency on passwords is a really, really positive thing. Now, I phrase that cautiously. It's not getting rid of passwords. It's not killing passwords. It's changing the dependency. If I think back to 10 years ago, 90% plus of the time, I authenticated to something, my PC, my mobile device, a server. It was with a password. Now, for many people, it is literally a password. But let's imagine there's hopefully different passwords everywhere. What's changing now is that when I authenticate to my phone, I do it with my face. When I authenticate to my PC and my laptop, I do it with my finger. When I authenticate to a whole bunch of different websites I use that have 2FA, I do it with a universal two-factor authentication token, which is great because I have to have this. It can be stolen, but you have to get into my house. It can't be taken from an online service like a password. So someone needs to actually have it in their hand. It can't be phished. It's not a soft token. It's not a hard token that generates a number that I need to enter. It's not an SMS. I literally have to have the thing in my hand, put it in the machine, tap the little button on top of it in order to authenticate. This is such a fundamentally better way of authentication, both the hardware token sort of thing and also the biometrics. All of this moves us forward in a really, really positive way. So I think particularly in terms of the best things happening that actually reach the masses, moving away from the dependencies on passwords is a fantastic result. How do you imagine cybersecurity in 10 years? I often look back the other way, and I look back 10 years ago, and I think about what were the things we were saying then. And one of the things we kept saying then was there'll be no more passwords in 10 years. And of course, we have more passwords than ever now. So when I think 10 years forward, I still think we will have more passwords than ever. But what I think will be different about cybersecurity is that we will have better ways of doing authentication without the dependency on passwords as compared to today. A perfect example, I think about my iPhone. 10 years ago, I had to enter a PIN, which is really just a weak password. And someone could look over my shoulder and they could possibly guess it. And now when I authenticate to my phone, I'm doing it with my face. When I authenticate to my PC or to my laptop, I'm doing it with my finger. So even someone watching me is not seeing the secret that I use. So I think in 10 years from now, we'll have much better ways of doing authentication without sole dependency on passwords. We're also seeing things like hardware tokens. So they're a great way using universal two-factor authentication of doing authentication. So better and smarter ways of doing auth is my big pick for 10 years from now. What do cyber criminals fear the most? I'd like to say getting caught, but I think most cyber criminals out there don't think they're ever going to get caught, so that doesn't really seem to stop them. I'd also like to say well-defended systems, but there are so many poorly defended systems out there and poorly defended individuals that there's so much variety. I'm not sure that they're really worried about that either. I think if I was to give you my best answer, I think what cyber criminals fear the most is failure. They're very often motivated by the challenge. Obviously, the money's part of it, but for them, a lot of this is a big adventure. They would like to go and break through a system. And in my experience, I think cyber criminals are very unhappy when they don't succeed in their goals. So let's go with failure. I've been Troy Hunt. Thank you very much for watching this Q&A on the NordVPN YouTube channel. Stay safe online, don't reuse your passwords, use multi-factor and turn on your VPN.